Ivory Coast nil. Super Eagles Nigeria 1. And they get a big win to boost their chance of going through to the next round of the Africa Cup of Nations. And it was a good game. It was a good game overall. I mean, going into obviously Ivory Coast, the host, they're always going to have some sort of challenger mentality given they are hosting the competition. And Nigeria are a good team as well. So it's two very good match teams. And obviously the other teams in the group, Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau, will be looking at this game with obviously keen intention to see what happens next, because obviously with Equatorial Guinea winning earlier 4-2, they were in the pole position ahead of this game, but Nigeria needed a big win, man. Big win, because Nigeria getting this win means that they are now on 4 points as well, and they play Guinea-Bissau in the next game, which means they should be basically through. Ivory Coast, on the other hand, they sit in third position on 3 points, but what it's done is blown the group wide open again. Blowing it wide open, because now anyone can go through, really. Let's be honest about it. Ivory Coast got a massive game next time they play out, and they're the host team. So as the host team, you can't really go out like this. I'm sorry. Like, you can't go out in the group stage as the host team. You ain't exactly Qatar in the World Cup, mate. So I think if you are looking at it as an Ivory Coast, I guess I say fan, if you're from the country, you got to be a bit disappointed with the way this game turned out. Because I thought that both these teams were evenly matched for the most part. I don't think it was a game that Nigeria blew Ivory Coast away from. I really don't think that was the case. I thought it was a fairly even match. But in the key moments, Nigeria were just better. And at the end of the day, you can analyze it by saying that Nigeria had a killer up front in Victor Osimhen, who won them the penalty. And of course, it was dispatched well by Nigeria as well. But I think overall, if you look at the actual game itself, both dynamics, I don't think it was a game that, I think a draw would have been a fair result, to be honest with you guys. I think it was both teams having spells in the match. Nothing from Ivory Coast, though, man. Like, they didn't create enough clear-cut chances for the possession they had. And I'm not saying that they were dominating possession, because they weren't. It was evenly matched, I'd say. But for the possession they had, they weren't creating any like clear-cut chance where they were actually driving through the opposition. It felt very static from them. Do you get what I mean? It felt very much a case of, oh, one time they were trying to shoot from far out, or they were just trying to cross the ball in rather than actually going in, like penetrating down the middle. And I think that was a real downfall from them, because if I look at it like holistically here, Ivory Coast had a really good opportunity in this game to get something, to be honest with you guys. A very good opportunity. And they didn't, to be fair. They just kind of like, they were just so cagey in the game, didn't really take their chances. And Nigeria, on the other hand, look, if they lost this game, Nigeria, it could have been a very long day for them. Very long day for them, because obviously they drew the first game. If they lost this game, they're sitting on 1 point after 2 games. It's quite literally like doomsday at that point. You have to win your final match. But now they're in a good position, very good position. They could finish top of the group, and I think right now they probably will finish top of the group. And for them to progress to the next round, that's the main thing, man. Get through the next round, and then try and get in the qualifying, the knockout stages. Try and beat obviously your opposition and go from there. I don't think either of these teams are favourites to win the tournament. I would put my money on Senegal or Morocco, but still, they're still two very good teams, man. Very good teams in this competition. Ollie12, appreciate joining the stream, my friend. I can't lie, this AFCON has been ass so far. I haven't really watched it, to be fair, because I've had exams. And this is the first game, full 90 minutes of AFCON I've watched, to be fair. And look, it wasn't a terrible game. I think there was obviously a clear lack of quality in terms of finishing from both sides. I think, look, Osimhen, to be fair to him right now, yeah, I thought Osimhen was a good, like, he was second half, he impressed me a lot more in the first half. In the first half, his runs were good, but he had one chance in the first half after about 10 minutes, and he skied it, man. I was thinking, oh, what is this, bro? Like, you're meant to be a striker, and he's just absolutely skied it. I think the second half, I thought his link-up play was much better from Victor Osimhen. I thought he played really well in that second half. His hold-up play, his link-up play, his runs in behind were good. He still isn't quite an elite finisher from what I've seen, especially in that first half. I don't obviously watch a lot of Serie A, so I can't comment on that. But, I mean, if you're an elite finisher, you don't sky the ball like he did in the first half. Let's be real about it right now. But he does look a dangerous player, to be fair to him, Victor Osimhen. So, yeah, I think he was a big part of what Nigeria did today. He's African's Footballer of the Year, I believe, as well. And if you've got a player like that up front, you've always got a chance. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've always going to have a chance. So, yeah, I big up him for that. What's happened to Pepe as well? He was the first time on the team sheet for Ivory Coast. Yeah, now he's on the bench. Look, Nicolas Pepe he's a 5v5 Power League footballer. That's how I see it. The guy's game is perfect for Power League, man. But you put him on an 11-a-side football pitch, it's just not the same from Nicolas Pepe. So I don't blame him for getting dropped. Obviously, he's at Trabzonspor right now, out in Turkey. Doesn't even play in the Premier League anymore. Yeah, look, I think Ivory Coast, to be fair to him, I like their midfield anyway, and I like their defense. I don't know what's happened to Zaha, though. Like, I don't think he went to AFCON, because that's really puzzled me. I don't know if he's injured or something. I haven't really kept up with God's slime matches this season to know if he's injured or not. But that surprised me, because he's not old enough to retire from the national team, to be honest with you guys. I think having someone like Zaha would at least give you a killer up front. Like, I'm not saying he's the same type of striker that Victor Osimhen is, but at least whether you play him at left wing or striker, Zaha's someone that you know can get goals. Like, he's proven it in big leagues like the Premier League, for example. So I think Ivory Coast defense is good. I like Ousmane Diomande. I think he's a superb centre back, and Indika and stuff like that. And I like their midfield as well, Kessie, Sangare, etc. But I still think they lack it really going forward. And you saw again today, man, they lost 1-0. And they didn't have a lot of chances, but they never really looked like putting the ball in the back of net, Ivory Coast. Now, I still think they'll go through. So I think their next game, I think they can beat Equatorial Guinea, to be honest, but they need to win now. Whereas Equatorial Guinea can afford to basically draw and go through. And that's dangerous. Because when you're playing a team that can draw and go through, and you know you have to win, it puts extra weight on it. Do you get what I mean? So I think, to be honest with you guys, Ivory Coast will still go through. I think Nigeria and Ivory Coast will be the two teams to go through. But I don't want to obviously say for an absolute fact that will happen, because I'm not too sure right now, to be honest with you guys. I'm genuinely not too sure. Ivory Coast will go through. Yeah, I think there's a good chance of it. Good chance of it for an absolute fact, Brian. I appreciate you joining the stream, my friend. But yeah, I think, to be fair with you guys, overall though, I think this group's a tough group to call. Nigeria and Ivory Coast are two very good teams, man. Like, if I look at the actual groups overall for AFCON, in most of them, there's a clear, like, you know what I mean, like a clear front runner winner for most groups. But this one's not an easy one whatsoever. And by the way, the game later today that I'll be streaming after as well, Egypt versus Ghana, man, that's a big game, guys. I'll tell you that for a fact. That's a humongous game, because both teams not got off to a great. Well, Ghana's obviously won their game, but Egypt haven't got off to a great start, so they need to win basically. So because if they lose, it could be a long day for them. But yeah, look, if I show you guys, look, the AFCON settings right now, yeah. So look here. So Group A, you got Equatorial Guinea and Nigeria both sit on 4 points. Then you got Ivory Coast on 3. Guinea-Bissau are basically out of it with 0. Then you got Group B. Cape Verde are sitting on 3 points. Later today, Egypt and Ghana got to go for it, man. They have to go for it. Have to go for it, for an absolute fact. Group C, Senegal, we know they're going to go through. I think Cameroon as well will go through with them. Group D, Algeria, I thought they were going to go through, to be fair, but they had a bit of a bad start to Angola, man. That game wasn't great from them. Mali, Namibia, Tunisia, and South Africa. To be honest, I don't know who's getting through there. I'd guess Mali or Tunisia. And then Group F, Morocco will go through. So if I look at AFCON overall, right, every group seems to really have a front runner. I think Morocco are going to go very far in the competition. I think Senegal are going to go very far in the competition. And to be fair with you guys, Egypt don't look amazing, but they've got Mohamed Salah, so they could go very far as well. And I remember last AFCON, they didn't even look that good, and they still went far. Ghana could as well. I like Ghana. Mohamed Kudus, for example, I think he's a fantastic player, and they've got some remnants of a good team there. And then from this group, I think, look, Nigeria equally. But for me, the front runners are Senegal and Morocco. I'd be very surprised if we don't see a Senegal versus Morocco go very, very far in this competition. If not them two reaching the final, to be honest with you guys. But look, you're in it to win at the end of the day, right? Ivory Coast, they're the home nation. They got to go for it. Right now, they're sitting third. They got to try and make some moves to get into the to qualify to the next round. Because one thing's an absolute fact, right, guys? Yeah, one thing's an absolute fact. You don't want to go out of tournament football just because you think you ain't good enough. Because one thing for an absolute fact in tournament football is, right, doesn't matter if you're a team that's a favorite or a team that's not a favorite. Anything can happen. Look at Morocco in the World Cup, guys. No one would have thought Morocco would get out of the group, let them reach the semi-finals. Because when you reach the knockout games, it's one-off games, man. Anything can happen. You just got to win that one-off game in 90 minutes. You could get a fluky penalty. A guy could get a red card for doing something stupid. You never know. So always try and get through to knockout rounds. Because at the knockout rounds, anything can happen. It's anyone's game. Yes, there's favorites. Yes, there's underdogs. But just get to knockout rounds. And look, if I had to be honest, I do think either a Senegal or Morocco will win it. If I had to put on one of the two teams. Right now, I'm thinking Senegal will just edge Morocco to it. But equally, I think, to be fair, it can go anywhere. Genuinely, it can go anywhere, man. You could see an outsider like a Nigeria come through and Egypt come through and try and do something. Ghana versus Egypt. I'd forgotten about that one. Ghana's winning that. Salah can't save them. To be fair, I want Egypt to win it, I think, just so it's a bit more of like an even group. So it's a bit more interesting going into the final game. But to be honest, I don't mind either way. Ghana without Thomas Partey, though, which is a bit annoying for them. I like Thomas Partey. He's still injured, though. Hopefully he comes back for my team Arsenal very, very soon. But yeah, overall, though, to be fair, this game wasn't amazing, to be fair, in terms of quality. I thought it was a decent match overall. Like, if I look at the match stats for this game, guys, like, look, it was an even game, man. Very even game. Ivory Coast, as I said, had the more possession. They didn't really do enough with it. Like, look, they had 14 shots, 3 on target, 60% of the ball, basically. Nigeria had 1 shot on target, and that was the penalty, and they scored it. Do you get what I mean? So sometimes you just got to be clinical. I was surprised Osimhen didn't even take the penalty, though, to be fair. That did surprise me, to be honest. But other than that, man, I thought, look, decent overall. Obviously, the result for Nigeria is the most important thing. After they were disappointing in their first game, to be honest with you guys, like if I look at the fixtures for AFCON, like their first game, what's it called? Nigeria. I was a bit disappointed with them. Like they drew 1-1. I thought, like obviously Osimhen scored, right? But I thought that, to be fair, Aina and Lookman had a good game, but other than that, they weren't fantastic in that game, to be honest with you guys, against Equatorial Guinea. Ivory Coast obviously beat Guinea-Bissau 2-0. That was fantastic from them. But other than that, guys, yeah, you have to be completely honest about it. They've got a lot of improvements to make. A lot of improvements to make. Both Ivory Coast and Nigeria. I still think Nigeria, look, I still think they're going through the motions a little bit. And look, it's only the second game of the group. You got time to improve upon. But you really should, by the second or third game, you should be hitting flow state. So when you go into the knockout rounds, you're basically like, you're in a good rhythm. Everyone seems to be clicking in the right direction. You can just attack it in the final game. Do you get what I mean? So I'm still waiting to see both teams really click into gear. But look, I can't wait to get into knockout rounds. That's when it gets really interesting in terms of AFCON, especially the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then of course the final. That's when it really gets interesting because those are the pressure moments. Because right now in the groups, it's still a little bit like if you lose a game, if you draw a game, it's not the end of the world. You get another chance there. You got 3 chances basically. You get 4 points from 3 games. You're basically through to the next round. But yeah, I appreciate everyone that tuned into the stream today. I'll be streaming later as well for Ghana versus Egypt, hopefully, which will be hopefully a really good game as well. But for the most part, to be fair, I thought that wasn't a disappointing game whatsoever. I thought it was a decent game. What do you think that guy that came on late for Ivory Coast? It was pissing me off trying to dribble in vain, wasted sub. You talking about Pepe? If you're talking about Pepe, bro, that guy, man, he's a futsal player. He's a 5v5 power league player. He is not a 11-a-side footballer, Nicolas Pepe. I've seen enough of him on the right-hand side. The thing about Ivory Coast for me, though, was just too many shots from far out. Like, I understand that Nigeria were defending very well and resolutely. They're obviously very compact. But like you got to try and penetrate them. You can't just keep taking shots from 30, 40 yards out. Like, I've seen it a few times. I think that is a problem with Ivory Coast. I think they've got a very, very good defense and midfield. But I think they're lacking in attacking areas. That's why I'm so surprised that Zaha, I don't know what's happened with Zaha, like whether he's traveled and injured or what, I don't know. But he should be there if he's not injured. I don't get it, man, to be honest with you guys. But look, that's just neither here nor there. I'll be back later today for Egypt versus Ghana, which will hopefully be a fantastic game in Group B as well. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, and I hope to catch you guys all in my next